Hey, what's up? It's Swamp. Back for another tutorial. Okay, in this one I'm going to show you how to optimize your tracks for the cross-platform sharing. As you know, when you upload your tracks to Track Central, they automatically go to PC, PS4, and Xbox One. So you're going to need to do some things to them to make sure they work well on all the platforms. I hooked up with the developers over at RedLynx, and they gave me some tips. So I made a list, and I'm going to share it with you guys. So, let's get started. Okay, tip number 1. In general, PS4 can handle more objects and logic. Xbox One can handle more effects. Okay, so what that means is if you're building on PS4 and you use a lot of objects or a lot of logic, it may lag or tear on Xbox One. And if you're building on Xbox One and you use a lot of effects like waterfalls and lava, then it may tear on PS4. So just keep that in mind. You can use a lot of stuff. I mean, I've pushed it pretty hard, and I've seen other tracks push it pretty hard with effects. So just try to keep that in mind as you're building. Okay, tip number 2. Use the statics overlay as much as possible when doing a test run. The closer any of the bars get to red, the worse your track can perform, especially on other formats. Okay, let me show you how to get the statics overlay up. What you do, you push down on the D-pad on your controller, use your right stick, and go to statics overlay. And that's how you get it up. To make it go away, just push down again and go to it again, and it goes away. Okay, tip number 3. Try to ensure at all times that your maximum number of objects in view does not exceed 2,000. Alright, let me show you how to test that. So you go down arrow with the D-pad and go over to statics overlay, pull that up. Okay, and you see the second thing over here, visible objects peak 208. So that's how you see how many objects are in view. And this will be as you're riding the track, you're going to want to test this. But right now I'm just going to look around and show you how that changes as we start seeing buildings and things come in and out of view. You see how it comes up pretty high and it goes back down. So just try to make sure as you're riding your tracks that you keep the objects in view below 2,000. Okay, tip number 4. If you get screen tearing or slight lag on your system, you can pretty much guarantee that it will perform worse on another format. Alright, let me show you what that looks like. Let's test the track here real quick. Okay, so watch at the bottom of the screen the frames per second. You can see how that's kind of jumping down to 49, 46. You see how it's kind of jumping along, lagging pretty hard actually. Okay, so the reason it is lagging here is because it's going through all this grass. So, and you see the screen tearing and stuff. So what you can do is you can put down some environmental textures and take away the grass that grows and just put down let me show you real quick. Okay, so to get rid of that, you can just put down some terrain shaping, and then you just use grass, make it really large, and just copy it and move it around, and that will take care of it. You can do that, and that'll take care of the screen tearing. But anyway, I just wanted to show you what screen tearing looks like. So you can see what happens. The frame rate goes down, frames per second is dropping, and starts tearing. And so that's what that looks like. So if your screen is doing that, if your track is doing that, then you can pretty much guarantee it's going to do it on another format. So that's what you want to try to avoid right there. Okay, tip number 5. Excessive use of effects, especially overlapping one another, can cause frame rate issues. Okay, I set up this waterfall here. This is not too many. This is not going to cause any frame rate issues really. But let me just show you what happens when you ride the track. You ride, and you see the waterfall. Then you get past the waterfall. And so you don't really need the waterfall now on at all because you're not even seeing it. So it's kind of a waste to have it turned on, have it be working its magic while you don't need it. So I'm going to show you how to turn that off real quick. You can go to Triggers and Events, grab a data source, grab a variable data source. And what we're going to do is link all of these. I have all these grouped together. So I'm just going to link the enabled to this variable. And you see that turns everything off, because 0 is off and 1 is on. So we're going to set this to 1 now for it to be on when you come to it. Now, if this is further down your track, you probably could set this to 0, and then when you get close to it, you could turn it on and set it to 1. Let me show you how to set the number and change the numbers on that. So you go to events and grab a set value event. You set this up. The event target is going to be the variable, and then the value is going to be whichever you want, 0 or 1. 0 is off, 1 is on. So we're going to turn this off this time. So I'm going to grab a hit trigger, an area trigger. Grab an area trigger, and on hit, we're going to set that value to 0 to turn that off. And so now we can put this down here on this hill. As you ride away from the waterfall, you won't see it anymore in this track. So I'm just going to put that right there. And here I can show you how that works. Let me see. Let me grab a checkpoint real quick. Grab a checkpoint, place the rider right there. And you see as he rides down, then when he hits that, it turns off the waterfall and it saves all that power. So that's how you do that. Let me show you one more thing. They're just out of curiosity about effects. You can see right now in the top right that the waterfall's not on. The waterfall impact is on, but the waterfall's not on. And you see as you get closer to it, it turns on. Let me show you how you can fix that real quick. I have all these grouped together, like I said. So what you want to do to fix that is to glue them together. So glue them together, and then you want to select the pivot and grab the pivot and bring it over and down to the ground and snap it to your drive line. Bring it down low, and that will fix the waterfall. That also works on lights too, and you see now you can see the waterfalls on when you get to it. So that works with effects and with lights. If you glue them together and place the pivot point on the drive line, that helps a lot with you seeing it when it comes into view. Okay, tip number 6. Multiple interval triggers and curved data sources can cause lag if there are too many active at once. Enable any animation logic when it is needed rather than at the start of your track. Disable all logic once it's out of camera view or is not seen again. Alright, let me show you how that works. Okay, so I have those gears up there. Let me just show you this. Right on this track real quick. And you see the gears up there turning. And so I just have them on the whole time. So it's on the whole time. They're still on after you pass them and stuff. So what that's saying is we don't really need them on when you can't see them. So let me show you how to fix that. Let me show you what you have first. Have their interval trigger set to 1 tick every frame, and then it goes to an object position event, which is linked bank to a curved data source, and all these are linear. They're set to 0 to 359. It takes 280 ticks to make a complete revolution, and is set to looping. So, and that's what this looks like, is that. Now, what you're going to want to do is turn this off, and then turn it on when you need it, and turn it back off when you don't need it. So we're going to go and turn off the enabled on the interval trigger and the curved data sources and the OPEs. Turn everything off. So you see when you hit play, nothing happens now. They don't do anything. So what you want to do now is go over to triggers and events and go to events and add a state event. And you want to link this to everything. So it's going to be on, and you're going to link it to that, all the curved data sources, all the OPEs, and the interval trigger. Okay, and then you're going to want to copy that and set this one to off. And so now you can turn it on and off as you need with hit triggers. So we're going to grab a hit trigger, an area trigger. Sorry, I always say hit trigger, I mean area trigger. It's because the bike hits it, that's what I'm thinking. Okay, so rectangle, a little bit larger, on hit, turn it on. Okay, and then so I'm going to put this down here, right as you come over this hill. Turn those on. So see if you start here and you ride up. When you see it, it's on, but it's off the rest of the time. And then we're going to take a copy of this area trigger and put it down here. and set the hit to the off state event, and that'll turn them off. Now let me show you this. Say you're riding, you turn it on, and you're riding, and you come over this jump and you wreck. Then you restart at the checkpoint, they're not on because the area trigger is behind the checkpoint. So what you're going to want to do is come from this checkpoint that's in between that, and you're going to want to go to select event filter and take it up to on also. And so then when you restart your track, it turns them on and it looks seamless. And so that still turns them off. And once they're off, they'll stay off because they started out off and you don't reset at checkpoint. So that's how you do that. Okay, tip number 7. Multiple or complex glue groups can cause respawn delay on any system. Alright, let me show you how quick that can happen. I put these cars up here. Actually, I built these cars with the I built this car with the primitives, and I just copied it a few times and put it up here. So let me show you what happens when you ride. See, you're riding okay. It seems to be doing okay. It gets up here and it really kills the frame rate. And then if you crash, then when you hit respawn, it takes a minute to come back. So that's what that's talking about. You see how hardcore that is with all that stuff in the frame. And let's look at the statics overlay with that. Okay, so here we have way too many objects. You see it goes up to 9,000 objects invisible. And the frames per second is 24. So complexity is nearly maxed out. So, and that's all because of these cars. These cars will, it's just a real complex glue group. Sorry. You see how fast this drops down when you delete. You can watch the complexity coming down. Let's do an area selector. Show you how fast it takes it down when you delete these cars. If it'll work. See? So that dropped it all the way down back into the green. So the glue groups, definitely primitives, will definitely drag your track down. So be careful when using those. Okay, tip number 8. Reduce the view distances and shadow distances if your track allows. Reducing shadow distance can sometimes help a lot without even reducing visual quality. Okay, let me show you how to do these distances. Alright, push down on your D-pad and go to track settings. And then you want to go to environment and you want to go to custom settings, and then here are the distances here. You can bring these down pretty much a lot. If depends on your track, but just bring them down till you start not seeing what you want to see, till it starts changing things. You can bring this down to probably 3,000 without it changing much. Object view distance, just drag it all the way down and then go back up slowly to see what you want to see. You see, so by 500 it was 6,000, and now by say 1,000, brought that down drastically, and it hasn't changed the track in the least, really. Okay, bring down the shadow distance. This is the shadow the sun is casting on stuff. So you can bring it up to the general, just what's close, and then you can bring that down pretty much if you want. People really won't notice. You probably won't even notice that that's not there. So that's how you do that. Okay, tip number 9. Don't increase the physics bubble size. Okay, what that means is with the rider, let's bring the rider down here. This right here is the physics bubble. It's the actual area that the physics is activated around the rider. And you see the size right now is 20 meters. So that's what that tip is saying is don't change this size. And so, see, if you say we have this rock, we turn the physics on this rock. Then we'll lift it up so you can see what happens. Now see, when you ride by, when you get within that 20 meters, then the rock falls because the physics gets turned on. So you see, you could copy this rock and bring it over here. and that's probably more than 20 meters away. So you see the physics doesn't get turned on at all on that rock. So that's what that tip means, is don't increase that size. If you need to animate something outside that bubble, you should probably use object position events. Okay, tip number 10. Make water planes and objects decoration only unless the player hits them. Okay, in my opinion, I think this is the most important tip. I do this all the time in all of my tracks. Pretty much set everything, if possible, to decoration only. So let me show you how to do that. I grouped all these rocks together, so I'm just going to select them all at once. Advanced Physics, Physics Type, set it to decoration only. Alright, and let's do it with the water plane too. Advanced Physics, and you set it to decoration only. So that means it's just an object that you see. It's not going to react to the rider. Nothing's going to happen. And here, let me show you real quick. You see, if you fall on the rocks, then you just go right through, and it's not like you're in the water or anything. It's all just turned off. So how you turn that back on is with a variable. So let's go to data sources and grab a variable data source. Okay, and if you look at the settings and the physics type, so advanced physics, physics type, you see that there are 4 settings. So these are going to correspond to a number. So this is going to be 0, 1, 2, and 3. So you're going to want to set this to 3. So let's attach this to this variable, and then, sorry about that, let's attach these 4 rocks here that the rider may come in contact with. Let's attach those to the variable also. Advanced Physics, Physics Type, pick Value Object, and I'll pick that variable. Okay, so now we need to set it to 3 because we want it to be decoration only. So setting it to 3 means that it's decoration only. Okay, so now when the rider touches it, we're going to want to set it back to 0. So we're going to grab a set value event under events. And how you set that up is, open that up, go to select event target, and you click on the variable. And that means that it's going to set it to this value, which is 0. Now you need to power that, so we're going to use an area trigger. So let's go to triggers and grab an area trigger. We're going to set this to be a square. We're going to make it around 12 meters. It's about the size of that water plane. Okay, and you're going to want to set this just above the water so that if the rider is going into the water, it will turn it on before he gets there. Now, you need to set the hit on hit. Go to the set value event, which will set that to 0. Okay, so now let's put something on the rocks. So we're going to go here, change this to the sphere, bring it down some, and then use these on the rocks here to turn the physics on those rocks if you should happen to hit those. And that will turn them on before you hit them, so then they'll be like they were on the whole time. Now, one thing, when you fall into this water, it's probably not going to kill you. And if you want someone to get a fault and die when they fall into the water, you're going to want to grab a fail area and put it in there. So we'll grab that, and we'll go to this size here. Looks bigger than it is. It is pretty big though. Alright, let's bring that down some. Okay, so now you just want to want to put that just underneath the water. And so now when the bike touches that, the rider will crash. Oops, sorry. So we need to drag this back down. Remember to keep this one just above the water so that when the rider touches it, it'll turn the water back on. So let's test that. So it should turn this rock back on so we can ride on the rock, and then the water, and it should crash you underwater. So that's how you do that. I would highly suggest turning on decoration only on pretty much everything that the rider doesn't ride on. These rocks, see, some things you can't turn on. With this tree, I'm pretty sure you can do it with the trees. Advanced Physics, and set it to decoration only. So if you do this, it's really going to help the performance of your track. So I highly recommend it. Okay, tip number 11. Lots of shadows near the driving line can cause lag at times. Alter the sun direction slightly or move objects away. Complex trees can make this issue worse. Okay, I set up this track real quick with all these trees and the sun was putting the shadows across the drive line just to show you what it looks like. This is probably not going to be a problem because this is the only thing on the track and it's real low complexity, so it's probably not going to be a problem. But so let me show you how to move the sun if it is a problem for you. So first you need to go down on the D-pad and go to track settings, or you can go to your editor menu and go to track settings. You need to go to environment, and then you can try longitude right here. Just turn this and see that gets the job done. That's pretty good. So you can do that longitude. If you need to go into further settings, you can go to custom settings, time of day, and then you can change the sun angle actually too, and then longitude, and just adjust it until you get it to how you want it, where it's not on the drive line if it's a problem. Okay, tip number 12. Vectors and data sources changing the properties of many objects can cause heavy lag. Okay, I didn't really have a very huge example of programming, but I do have this vector thing that I wrote that shuffles the contents of a vector. It puts in the numbers 1 through 10, but it puts them in a random order each time you run the track. And so that populates this vector here. I did another tutorial on it, so you can look on YouTube. There's a tutorial on how to do this. But let me just show you what happens when it happens. Let's test the track. And here, let's do this actually. Let's bring up the statics overlay first. And what you're going to be looking at is the third thing down on the list, the dynamic modifications. And here I'll show the area, hit area, so we can see it. And you see that dynamic modifications just rams up to, just floors that bar and goes red. 505, 506. So, and see what it's doing. It's populating these values here for that vector. So, but you see how it goes. It just floors that bar. So, if you had a lot of things going on, it would affect the performance of your track. Not here. It's such a small thing, and I really don't have anything going on other than this, so it's not going to affect the track. But otherwise, that's what they're talking about there, is just watching the statics overlay for dynamic modifications, doing a lot of things at once. That could cause lag also. Okay, tip number 13. Making many objects become visible or invisible at once can cause a freeze. Okay, let me show you an example of this. I have my cars here, and there's a lot of pieces. They're all connected to hidden and visible. I have them become hidden when you first start the track. Let me just push play and show you. See, they go invisible. And then when we run the track, we hit the area trigger and it makes them become visible, thus making it freeze for a second. So watch what happens. See? So that's what this tip is talking about. Doing that too much will make that happen. It will make it freeze. So what you can do to fix that is to use object position event and move things into and out of place. Instead of making them become visible and invisible, make them there and not there. Okay, tip number 14. Turn lights on and off as needed. Glue lights together and place the pivot point on the drive line to help ensure they stay on. Alright, let me show you this real quick. I have this little track set up here with these 3 lights here, here, and on this setup here. And so let's ride it real quick. We ride it, and you notice that you don't see the lights over top of the hill, over the crest of the hill. This one over here you don't see, so we can turn that off until we get here. So let me show you how to do that real quick. We do it the same way as you do it with the effects. You need a data source. Oh, well, actually, we could do it with a event too. Not that one. We could do it with a light event. Light event. So grab a light event, take it, and select the light object, would be the light, and it's going to be an on event. So we can turn this light off for now. So turn it off like that. And then we need an area trigger. So we'll grab an area trigger. Make it a rectangle. On hit, I'm going to go to that light event. And then we'll put it down here like about there. So it'll turn on the light when you come up over the hill. It'll turn on the light, and the light will be on when you get up there. So see, you see no difference. The light's still on when you get here. Okay, so, and the same thing you could do for the lights. Let's copy this. We'll take this one and we'll turn these lights off. So turn this to off. Hit square to reset that, and select that light there. And then we'll take this area trigger and put it down here so we can turn the light off once we pass it, because we don't need it anymore. So that'll turn that light off, and this will turn this light on. So let's route it real quick. And so that turns that light on. Now, one thing I want to point out is, I'm sure some of you have had this problem. You see when you get to the top of the track here, that light behind you turns off before you want it to turn off. You still want it to be lit. So let me show you how to keep those lights on. It's kind of the same with the effects. We need to take a dummy object or another light. We could actually glue these lights together. So let's grab this light here and this light here, and let's glue them together. You could glue anything to these lights, but just glue them together. Then grab the pivot point and snap it to the drive line up where you want the lights to still be on. Alright, now let's test it out again and see if that worked. So gluing those lights together are pretty much like effects. It makes them stay on. I see I didn't glue that back one on, but you see this one stays on all the way. So that fixes that, and that's how you do lights. Okay, tip number 15. Use area condition to decrease view distances whenever possible. This may help when using complex animations in smaller areas of a track. Okay, let me show you how to do this real quick. I have this variable here, and I have two set value events, one to set it to 1 and one to set it to 0. And we're going to use that to turn the area condition on and off. So let's grab an area condition. Go to Common, Game, Area Condition, set it down, and you want to set the enabled to the variable so we can turn it on and off. And then you want to set the size. You want to drag that up to be larger than your area, whatever area you're wanting to bring the view distance down in. Then go to Area Condition Settings, and then here are your settings right here. Bring these down. You can bring them down if you're looking out a window or something, and you bring it down till you can still see what you want to see, but you know you're good with seeing what you want, but not too high, and that should help with like animations and stuff inside your building. You can bring all this stuff down. Okay, and then how you turn it on and off, you can use an area trigger and just set it up to be on hit. You go to 1 to set it to 1 to turn it on, and set it to 0 to turn it off. So once you leave the building, you can set it to on hit, set to 0, and that should turn it off and go back to what it was in the beginning before you turned on the area effector. So that's how you do that, and that was the last tip. So thanks for watching, and have a good time.